The honeymoon is over. Our couples are back in New Orleans, moving in together, meeting with Pastor Cal, and we're going to slowly start to see what happens when our couples dig into some deeper conversations, some more important topics, and what happens when they do butt heads. I wanted to start with Olivia and Brett. Brett's just terrible. Let's not beat around the bush. He's awful. In that meeting with Pastor Cal, you could just tell like he's the kind of guy who just wants to make fun of you until you do what he wants to do. And it just really was just awful all around. Like everything he said was just atrocious. And you know, what are they arguing about? They're arguing about money. They're arguing about how are we going to handle our money. You know, Brett owns a house in New Orleans and basically has his life budgeted around being able to afford that house and live in New Orleans and save for his retirement and not much else. Olivia, on the other hand, she rents a place in New Orleans and she likes doing some fun things in life like going to Saints games, traveling when she can, and going out and doing stuff with her friends. But also she makes more money than Brett. And this really fueled a huge argument between the two that if I was in a relationship with someone and they talked to me in that fashion, I'd be out of there because that was not cool. Basically, they need to realize that you're going to have one less house. You're not going to have to keep two houses. Like they're all worried about all this money. Hey, what happens when all of a sudden Olivia doesn't have to pay rent? Well, you'll have to take all that money that she normally spends on rent and utilities and all that every month, and you're actually going to have to light it on fire because that money has to go away. You can't keep that money. It's no good. It's illegal to keep extra money. 100% illegal. Just stupidity to me. Like, how has it not dawned on anyone? Like, hey, if we're two incomes, one house, all of a sudden, collectively, we have more money. And it like never clued into him. And Brett has this stick up his butt about she can spend her money and I'll spend mine. And it's just ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous. They're a couple now. They're married. You know, maybe it's not going to be immediate, but over time, their finances will become more or less one. Like, sure, things will stay separate, but that is going to come together and their big issue solved by not having two houses. That's it. And on top of that, Brett is a horrendous communicator. He just cannot communicate properly. Like I don't get it. I don't get it. He just like shuts down, turns into a dink, and that's his go-to. He just cruises in dink mode. And I really hope that Olivia wises up before the end of this 8 weeks and checks out and goes on her own way because Brett just needs to do some soul searching and really adjust his priorities in life to actually want to fit another person in there before he's ready for a marriage. All right, let's move on. I don't want to talk about those two anymore today. Let's talk about my favorite couple, Amelia and Bennett. I really enjoyed them going to see each other's homes, see how each other's lives. It almost seems like Bennett was really in awe of Amelia. He's in awe of everything she's accomplished, where she's lived, everything she did in high school, and he was really taken aback by Amelia being the homecoming queen. And had that little interview with Bennett, and he says, I never thought in my life that I would ever marry the homecoming queen. And it was just a very cute moment. And I think Bennett was extremely nervous to show Amelia his tiny house. and Amelia absolutely loved it. And that's what's great about these two. You know, they're open. They want to experience life. They want to experience life to the fullest. They accept people for who they are. At least that's how I perceive them. And they've been accepting each other how they are. And that is something that is going to go a long ways to helping solidify that marriage. However, they did reach a big road bump today when Pastor Cal brought up the conversation of, would Bennett be willing to move if Amelia got placed somewhere else in the country for her residency? And he did not commit and say yes. You know, they've been on the same wavelength about pretty much everything, or been able to get on the same wavelength about pretty much everything. But Bennett is not willing to commit yet on that front. You know, and it is a big decision. You've known someone for a week and you're being asked, are you willing to move across the country with me? And I think in most cases, for most people, the answer to that question would be a very simple no. As much as Amelia is setting up to be the breadwinner for the family, Bennett still has a life, still has his family, still has his friends, still has his tiny house, all in New Orleans. And for him to just up and say, yep, I'm willing to just leave all that behind, it's a very, very hard thing to do. I really hope that in the long run, it is something that he grows to be open to, because we ultimately don't know if that is something that is going to be asked of him before the end of this 8 weeks is up. I'm really hoping for the best for these two, but we just don't know how everything will play out for them. Another couple who had a little bit of a road bump as well was Woody and Amani. They've been doing so well all season long, and in their meeting with Pastor Cal, they had a major breakdown in communication. You know, Woody and Amani were just not clearly saying what they meant when they were talking with Pastor Cal. The topic came up of if Amani shaved her head, that Woody wouldn't be happy about it. And then it devolved into an argument about her hair, when really it was Woody saying, hey, if you're going to make a major decision in your life, I want to have a discussion about it. And Amani took the conversation as, it's my body, it's my choice, and I'm going to do whatever I want with my body, and you can't say anything about it. And they were both really having two different conversations. Woody was just trying to express that if there was a major decision to be made, that it should be discussed by them beforehand. He used a very poor analogy when he was trying to express that, and Amani took it as Woody really trying to be controlling in her life, when that is not what he was saying. He just was saying that for a major decision, he wants there to be a discussion. And when he brought up the reason why, it broke my heart a little bit that he had been with another woman and she was pregnant and she had an abortion without telling Woody, and it was something that he just wished that she would have talked to him about beforehand. Not that he was for or against her decision, but he just wished that he would have known and would have at least been able to put in his opinion on what happened. So I really think that these two will be able to get over this hurdle. Pastor Cal did a great job of diffusing the situation, and hopefully these two continue to grow their very solid relationship that we've seen so far. Miles and Karen are still in the same struggle that they've been in all season long. Karen just doesn't really seem to be willing to give their relationship a shot. She's kind of approaching things from the stance that Miles has to prove everything before Karen will take that first step in the relationship. And that's very weird to me, because she signed up for a show where you get married at first sight. I mean, it's right in the title of the show, and she's acting like it's something that Miles has to give to her and not something she has to give to Miles. This is a relationship, and if you want a relationship to be successful, you absolutely have to open up and give that relationship a chance. So far, Karen has not, and I really feel like if she does give this relationship a chance, it's going to work out. But so far, she is 100% closed up. There's no affection between the two. You can see that Karen just isn't even comfortable around Miles most of the time. And these two are married and supposed to be together for the rest of their lives. I know that there are some issues with the pair, the age, the maturity for Miles, but if Karen isn't willing to jump into that relationship, she'll never find out if they were actually a good match. The talk with Pastor Cal was also very illuminating for Miles. Pastor Cal straight up asked Miles, "What do you need out of the relationship?" And Miles really didn't have an answer. He's very much a people pleaser, and his whole goal is to make that person or people he's with happy, and often neglects himself. And that is something that Pastor Cal said, hey, you cannot do. You have got to be happy yourself. You can't just be all about making that other person happy. And with Karen not even being willing to open up a little bit, I don't know how she's ever going to satisfy any sort of need that Miles has for the relationship. I do hope the best for these two, but right now, I'm not that optimistic about this couple. Lastly, we have Henry and Christina. Henry is still stuck in his shell, not ready or willing to come out, and you can tell that it's starting to lead to frustrations not only on Christina's part, but also on Henry's part. There are some qualities in Christina that Henry hasn't been very happy with, particularly her impatience with a lot of things. You know, we have seen certain situations where Christina acted quite rude or maybe a little bit too blunt, whether it be how she approached Brett at the group date. Even though, you know, I was very much on board with Christina, I don't think that that's a type of behavior that Henry was very comfortable with. Even though all of us at home were probably rooting on Christina to kind of get a couple shots in on Brett and show him that he can't just get what he wants all the time. This couple, they really are going to have some sort of physical connection if there's any chance here. You know, there's been pretty much zero affection between these two. No hugging, kissing, hand holding, nothing. And I think that Christina ultimately is going to have to be the aggressor in this relationship. If she wants something intimacy-wise, she needs to extend that arm and grab it. I do think that Henry would be receptive to it, and I think it would help improve their relationship. But right now, it's just not something Henry is comfortable with. But I feel like once that door is opened, he would be comfortable with it. There was another little thing from Henry I wanted to talk about today, and that was that he made a little joke about having a party while Christina was out of town, flying around the country. And it kind of gave me a little giggle, because I was thinking to myself, I now really want to get to go to a Henry party. I have no idea what would go on at a Henry party. I'm excited to find out, though. I think that they need to have a spin-off series that's just Henry hosting a party every week. It would just be absolutely amazing. Also, Henry might have had a smaller home than Bennett. Like, Bennett lives in that tiny house, but Henry had one of the smallest apartments I've ever seen in my whole life. I don't know if it was just the way that things were shot, but it seemed extremely cramped, and I don't think Christina was very happy about that. But then on the flip side, it kind of seemed like Christina was possibly homeless, that she didn't really have a place. She just said, I just got a bunch of stuff in my car, and just was a little weird, and I don't think Henry liked that too much. I think that's everything I want to say about our couples this week. Lots of questions up in the air. One of our previews for what's coming this season, we actually see Henry storm off in a rage. You know, every season there's a guy who storms out over something, and I did not expect it to be Henry. So I want to see what events trigger that, and of course I will be back again next week to hopefully find out some of those answers. All right, everybody, as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we will see you later.